Joining me today is Jim Rogers, chairman of Rogers Holdings. Jim, good to see you again. Thank you for joining us.
I'm delighted to be here, Daniela. How are you?
I'm doing great. And since about last time we spoke, you said that if gold doesn't rally when bad things are happening, then the correction isn't over. Now we're up a little bit this Thursday, but what's keeping gold from really taking off here, Jim?
Daniela, as I've said to you several times before, I'm still not a buyer until gold goes under $1,000 an ounce. I own gold. I hope I'm smart enough to buy a lot of gold when it gets there. But, we had a huge blow off back in 2011, and I've been around long enough to know that huge blow offs usually take a long time to correct. In my view, that's what's going on. I mean, I'm not a very good trader, but that's how I see the world.
So with the tough summer it's been for gold, Jim, I know you've said in the past many times that you buy it when gold is down. Was that a good time for you?
Not yet. I'm still waiting for 950 or some 950 US dollars an ounce or something like that. It may not get there. If it doesn't, it's okay. I own a lot of gold, but that's what I plan to do, Daniela. If it gets there, I hope I'm smart enough and brave enough to buy a lot of gold. Because before this is over, Daniel, gold is going to turn into a very overpriced asset. It might even turn into a bubble.
Let's move on to equities now, Jim. Stock markets, as you know, have climbed even higher since the last time we spoke. Are valuations just overstretched here, and is now a risk on or a risk off period?
Well, Danielle, if you say markets, I mean, there are many markets in the world that have collapsed or are down a lot. You're talking about the United States stock market?
Yeah, let's look at the U.S.
Well, believe it or not, that's not the only market in the world, Daniela. Yeah, the U.S. market's making all-time highs. I'm not interested in buying any market making all-time highs, and it looks like it might well go higher. If Trump comes up with some good news for a while instead of all this bad news, you could have a blow-off in the U.S. stock market.
Right.
You could have one final move, but I'm not smart enough to buy blow-offs. I can't. I don't know how to do that.
I know we also spoke about how you foresaw or could easily see an over 50% correction happening in the U.S. stock market. Are you sticking to that?
Oh, yeah, it's going to be worse than that, Daniela. But when the next time we have a bear market, and I wish I were smart enough to know when, it's going to be the worst in my lifetime. 2008, we had a problem because of too much debt. Daniela, the debt has gone through the roof since 2008. The Federal Reserve in America alone has increased its balance sheet by 500% in 10 years. I mean, that's unheard of. Nothing like that has ever happened in history. And these are crazy things going on.
Jim, I'd love to get your thoughts now on, the NAFTA deal unfolding and dismantling here. What kind of a risk would that pose to someone's portfolio?
Well, if it turns into a trade war, and Mr. Trump keeps saying he wants trade wars, it's not good for anybody. Nobody's ever won a trade war, and trade wars have never been good for anybody. We saw that the Mexicans and the Americans did something recently, but I look at what details we have, and I say, what's going on here? This is bad for America. It means that prices are going to go up in the United States. How is that good for anybody at all? Maybe there are other details I don't know about, but so far what's being negotiated, Mr. Trump keeps saying it's a triumph, but I'm an American citizen, and there are 325 million of us. It doesn't look good for us from what I can see.
All right, Jim, final words for investors. I love asking you what you're buying or selling right now. So right now in this time, what does Jim Rogers love?
I cannot think of anything I love. I've learned in my life that if I love something, I should not do it. I should learn the other way. When I get too enthusiastic and I cannot wait to buy something, I need to calm down, go to the beach, or do something. So at the moment, I don't love anything. Zimbabwe. I'm buying Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe was ruined for 40 years by a crazy dictator. There's a new guy. He may be worse, he may be better, but he's certainly different. So you should think about Zimbabwe if you're looking for something to buy.
Why does the Fed hate gold. And, you know, a lot of people, at least in this audience, would remember the little exchange I had with Bernanke, and I asked him his gold money. And it took him a long time to figure it out, you know, the long, long pause. He says, no. So I guess he just dispelled, and I even mentioned that to him, dispelled 6,000 years of history. Oh, it used to be money. And a lot of people still think it's money, but it has its ups and downs. But right now, I think gold is moving back into the arena of monetary affairs. Not necessarily here, but on the subject of why does the Fed hate it so much? And very simply, I think big government hates it, and the Fed is a facilitator. It's a way they print money and create power and create wealth for special interests. It's a way to tax people, spend money, run up the debt, and print the money. So it's a sinister plot against the people. That's why I'm convinced when the people really get an understanding, they want something better than the Federal Reserve. Money, we know, originated in the marketplace before we had anything else, when they had very, very complicated and inefficient bartering. It finally advanced in history when they accepted the notion that a universal money like gold and silver, the precious metals, all of a sudden it advanced trades and development. And this is something that is recognizable when money fails, and our money's been failing, and we can talk a little bit about that history on how the Fed deliberately did that because they wanted to enhance the power. But now that we see in the failure, in spite of the problems that it is claimed we don't have anymore and everything is hunky-dory in this economy that we have a lot of problems basically around debt and the debt accumulation. But around the world depends on the dollar. We're seeing the failure of the system, whether it's Turkey and the Euro and Spain and Italy and Venezuela, all these places. But guess what? You don't have to guess, Chris, because I know you've thought about it. There are people now that are working on a strategy of what's going to happen after the dollar loses its reserve status. And I think that is a big issue.
Yes, and our position is for as many people as possible to understand the importance of gold, silver, just market money. And as you mentioned, these were chosen by market participants because of the qualities they had. Now, the reason government hates it is because government is about power, and they don't want any financial checks by the population. And right now, they have none. They can finance whatever they want, and it's all the things that we hate. They could finance their wars. They could finance their bailouts of their cronies or foreign countries, or God knows who they're bailing out. And because they can create the money, they do not have to come to us and ask us. So they basically do as they please. And that's why they hate gold.
And I remember talking about gold early on, even in the 70s especially. And I had a union leader come up to me who was a bit sophisticated, you know, and he came up and he says, I know what you're talking about. Gold has always been the friend of the working class. And a lot of people will, you know, sort of frown on that. But that really is true. It protects the purchasing power. It protects its real wages. Real wages go up. There's so many things that you can argue. And yet we're challenged, and we have to challenge them. And that is the universal teaching in our universities. I mean, that is really the problem, you know, whether it's the cultural Marxism and the social sense, or whether it's the economics of Keynesianism or socialism. Those are the things that we have to challenge, because we're confident enough that liberty can answer these questions, and protecting liberty at the same time of enhancing prosperity. That's a worthy goal as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, and I believe, and I have no proof of this, that Ben Bernanke knows that gold is money. He just can't say it. That would be for the central banker to say gold is money. Americans are not supposed to think that gold is money. So many years of propaganda have been invested to have Americans just dollars are it. But, you know, the world is a lot bigger than America, and the areas of the world where a majority of the population lives, China, Russia, China recently set up an oil for gold exchange. Russia has been stockpiling gold. Recently, Turkey's President Erdogan, I have a quote from him. He said, "Why do we make all loans in dollars? Let's use another currency. I suggest that loans should be made based on gold. Well, how about that? So gold really is thought of money around the world. It's just America, we're kept in a bubble over here.
It is true. It protects the purchasing power. It protects its real wages. Real wages go up. There's so many things that you can argue, and yet we're challenged, and we have to challenge them. And that is the universal teaching in our universities. I mean, that is really the problem. You know, whether it's the cultural Marxism in the social sense, or whether it's the economics of Keynesianism or socialism. Those are the things that we have to challenge, because we're confident enough that liberty can answer these questions, and protecting liberty at the same time of enhancing prosperity. That's a worthy goal as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, and I believe, and I have no proof of this, that Ben Bernanke knows that gold is money. He just can't say it. That would be for the central banker to say gold is money. Americans are not supposed to think that gold is money. So many years of propaganda have been invested to have Americans just, the dollars are it. But you know, the world is a lot bigger than America, and the areas of the world where a majority of the population lives, China, Russia, China recently set up an oil for gold exchange. Russia has been stockpiling gold. Recently, Turkey's President Erdogan, I have a quote from him. He said, "Why do we make all loans in dollars? Let's use another currency. I suggest that loans should be made based on gold." Well, how about that? So gold really is thought of money around the world. It's just America, we're kept in a bubble over here. Stockpiling gold. Recently, Turkey's President Erdogan, I have a quote from him. He said, "Why do we make all loans in dollars? Let's use another currency. I suggest that loans should be made based on gold." Well, how about that? So gold really is thought of money around the world. It's just America, we're kept in a bubble over here. Is thought of money around the world. It's just America, we're kept in a bubble over here. In a bubble over here.